Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel and thanks for joining in. And AWS has announced some new features in this month and that's what we are going to discuss today. So let's check them out one by one. So let's start off with the first one. So AWS has just announced on 7th, and I'm saying 7th because I got the notification for this on 7th July. So it might have been updated a few days before this, but I hope you get the point. So the first one is AWS is lowering down the data processing charges for AWS Private Link. So effective from July 1st, 2021, AWS is reducing data processing charges for VPC interface endpoints. That is powered by AWS Private Link. So as we all know that AWS Private Link provides private connectivity between VPCs, AWS services, and your on-premise networks without exposing your traffic to the public internet. It's basically a big boost because real-time scenarios like data-intensive services and data transfer might be very expensive. For example, if you're using Amazon S3 or Kinesis or any other third-party tool that is available for the Amazon Marketplace, so this might be a very costly affair. And this update actually aims to reduce the cost in that aspect, and that's a very good thing. And as you might be aware that there are two types of endpoints, interface and gateway. The price changes that are mentioned here is specifically for interface endpoints. So remember that very carefully. So let's see the pricing here. So AWS tells us that prior to this change, the customers used to pay a flat rate of $0.01 per GB for data processed over VPC interface endpoints. And with the new pricing, customers who access data-intensive AWS services or AWS interface endpoints can pay as low as $0.004 per GB for data processing. So if you see the table here, we have the data processed per month, the old pricing and the new pricing. So the first 1 petabyte that you see per GB, you used to pay around $0.01 on the old pricing, and that hasn't changed. So it is same like 0.01. But for the next 4 petabyte, that you have, the old pricing is $0.01, but the new pricing has reduced it to $0.006. There is a change of minus 40%. And then when it moves on to like anything above 5 petabytes, so the overall pricing that you used to pay per GB per month was around 0.01. And now the new pricing has reduced it to 0.004. So as you can see, there is a change of minus 60% on that as well. And this pricing that you see here is considering the total monthly volume of data processed using the VPC interface endpoints. So remember that very carefully. And the best thing that is that if you're currently using AWS Private Link, you don't need to make any changes to your current setup to avail this discount. So isn't that great? Yes, it is. So let's move on to the next one. The next update comes for the AWS step functions, and this is a big one. Yes, AWS has announced that Workflow Studio, a new low-code visual workflow designer for AWS step functions, will be generally available to users who are present in Canada, US East, US West, EU West, EU, Asia Pacific, Tokyo, Mumbai, and South America, that's Sao Paulo. And these are the regions that they have mentioned right now, but by this time you can as well check if you don't belong to this region, and it might just be available for you as well. So this is a big one because the Workflow Studio, or with Workflow Studio, you can build workflows using a drag and drop interface in the AWS console, and that will help you design workflows faster and with much ease. And having said that, I have previously worked with business process automation tools like Activity and Camunda, and I get really happy when I see Studio frameworks like this making our jobs easier. Isn't that great? So yeah, that is. So currently I'm on my AP South 1 region, and when I head over to AWS Step Functions, I am greeted with the Workflow Studio. So as you can see here, it's rightly mentioned AWS Step Function is a serverless function orchestrator that makes it easy to sequence AWS Lambda functions and multiple AWS services into business critical applications. So you can design a very good workflow for your business requirements and create that workflow for the automation to work. And this will help you design flexible applications which can work according to the choices that actually make up for the steps. And you can get started by just clicking on the Get Started here. And what you see here is a basic example of creating a Hello World workflow. So where you see the definition here, and on the right hand side, you see the design. And that's what we have been using. But we need to go to the state machines. So just click on that. And if you're new to this, you just need to click on the Create State Machine. Don't worry, just think of state machines as a workflow where each step that you have represents a state and its relationship with other elements. I'll explain this in the upcoming session, so don't worry about that. And this is where you get the option for the new Design Your Workflow Visually option. I said option twice, isn't it? Sorry for that. And I want to tell you this once again, that this is not an AWS step function session, so I won't waste your time explaining all the details here. So let's go ahead and check out the design tool. So here you get to choose from two types of setup. So first is the standard, and the next one that you have here is the express. So AWS mostly recommends we go with the standard approach, so which is basically durable checkpointed workflows for machine learning, order fulfillment, IT DevOps automation, ATL jobs, and other long duration workloads. So most of the tasks that we do involves the standard way of doing it. So AWS recommends us to move forward with the standard way itself. And if you just click on help me decide, you'll get more option on how you can make a better decision on what you should choose. So if you want that, you can go ahead with that. And for us, just click on next and you will reach here. And this is where you design your workflow with the drag and drop feature available to us. So let's suppose you want to design a workflow like this. So this is the start of your workflow. Then you add a few things in the space that you have, and then you end the workflow. So if suppose my workflow has only one step, I'm just going to add a step here. So that will represent my state, and that will have a start point and an end. So let's suppose I want to invoke a Lambda function. So I can just drag it and drop it on the workflow state that we have here. And as in when you drop it, or once you add the service here, you will get the options on the right hand side to configure this service step. So like you have the state name, you can change it as per your requirement. And if you wish to invoke a Lambda function, you can choose that. So you can choose an option from here, enter a Lambda function or function name, get function name at runtime from the state input. So if suppose there is a step that is above this invocation and it is passing the value of the function name, then you can choose this so that the invocation can happen at the Lambda invoke state. So that is one more way to do it. And if suppose you want to provide a payload, that also you can provide it here. There are three options here. You can use state input as payload, and or else you can just provide your own payload that you can enter it here. Or else if you don't have any payload, then you don't need to provide a payload to the function. And this configuration that you see here, you will get for every service that you choose from this option list. And the next thing that you see here is the next state. And this step actually tells you that where your workflow is heading towards, like what is the next step. So on the left hand side, you see here, we have two options. One is action and one is flow. And you can choose one among them to see all the options that are presented to us, or else you can search for a particular service that you want or a flow that you want. Under action, you get the list of all the services or the service operation that you need for your workflow, like SQS, SNS, Lambda, EMR, anything that you want from the service list, you can choose them. And when you come to flow, and when you select flow, you get the list of conditional steps and the way you want to define the direction of your workflow. So you can add conditions like by using choice. So adds if and else condition, and you can have multiple workflows, like it adds parallel branches. You can choose this. You can have a wait there. Actually you can specify the delay for a specified time, and you can add a success marker where actually it stops and marks it as success for your step that you want to execute, or else you can have a fail as well. And these are some of the options that the flow provides. So let's give it a try on this one, and I'll design a very basic workflow. So don't criticize me on that. Just see this and how it works. We will do this in the upcoming sessions, but please give me some time. I just want to play around with this. So let's suppose I have an invocation here, and this invocation tells me that if there is a condition in place, so whatever output that I get from this Lambda invoke, based on the choice that I have, I can redirect it to a separate workflow path. So when you click on the choice state here, you get two options because you have only two choice rules. So imagine this to be a path that you create based on the condition. If I want, I can add more choice rules. So let's suppose on the rule 1, I want it to publish a SNS notification. And then on the right hand side that I have, if suppose I get a default path, then I want to invoke a API gateway. So similar to the Lambda invocation that you saw just now, for API gateways and SNS also, you will get the option to decide the topic and the gateway parameters that you want to specify. So you can do that. And let's suppose after this SNS publication, I just want it to fail. So I'll give this. And if suppose I want to make it a pass, I can just add a step here. So if you see API gateway here, the next state that you see here has a choice. So it can go to any of these choices. So if suppose I choose fail, it will redirect to this one. Let's suppose I wanted to make it a success again, then it will come back to this. So based on my choice, it can actually change the design. So let's suppose what I want is the API gateway should actually send a SNS notification. So what I can do, I can just choose this one and it'll make the pathway like this. So you can see a form, right? On the right hand side, you have to see there is one more option, that is definition. So this will give you a read-only definition of the particular invocation that you have or the workflow that you have. So this is the read-only definition. So make sure that you remember that this cannot be modified, or don't imagine that you will put some configuration here and it'll change the design. Okay. So please be wary of that. But if you want to copy this, you can just click on the clipboard icon. It'll copy this. Okay. Now let's move on. And the next update comes for the Amazon Athena service. So AWS has announced that Amazon Athena adds parameterized queries to improve reusability and security. I know you might be already aware that Amazon Athena is an interactive query service that makes it easy to analyze data in Amazon S3 using standard SQL. So the users of Athena can now leverage the reusability, simplification, and security benefits of parameterized queries. Yes. And if you've already worked with Athena or in general database concepts like JDBC, ODBC, I know you have. So parameterized queries should not be alien to you. So parameterized queries help you to provide a precompiled SQL statement so that all you need to do is supply the parameters or variables that need to be inserted into the statement during the execution. So if you see here, I have written a prepared statement. Don't laugh at this statement. This is a very simple one, but I have written this. So which is prepare. Then I have given the name of the statement, that is my statement 1, and this will be its SQL statement. And now if I have to execute this SQL statement, I don't need to run the whole SQL query again. I can just execute the prepared statement by typing execute and the name of the prepared statement that I have. And in case if you want to have insert values, you can have your SQL statements with parameters, and you can provide the input values in your execute statement for that to be executed by the SQL query. So don't worry about that. We'll check this out. So don't get confused here. Okay, so let's write our first statement. So that will be prepare. Okay, so why to waste your time? Let's just paste the queries that we have. Okay, so what the statement that I have here is prepare my statement from this is the SQL query that I want to run. So if suppose you just want to test it, just delete that prepare part and just run this query. And we'll see, it'll try to get all the logs that we have here. So it's taking a bit of time, but as you can see here, currently it is using the Athena engine version 2. So it has been upgraded. So we are getting the data. So let's suppose I don't want to execute this every time. So I write a prepare statement. So prepare my statement 1 from select star from ELB logs, and I can just run the query here. So now my query is complete, and always make sure that your syntax is correct. Otherwise you will always get errors while running queries. So remember that very carefully to make sure that you have your queries properly written. And I'll click on plus, and I'll add the next statement that I have. That is basically my execute my statement 1. So this is my first statement where I have created the prepare statement. Now I'm not going to execute using this. I'll execute using this execute of my statement 1. That is my prepared statement. So let's see if that works. Yes, it does. And you must understand that this statement that you see here is a transposition of what exactly it is going to execute here. The from that you see here, this SQL query, it's the transposition of what the statement actually carries. So even though you're executing this on the background, it is trying to execute this statement. So let's suppose I want to select request IP and the ELB response code and the backend port on the condition that whenever the ELB response code is 200 and the backend port is 48 or 8888. So we have to write the statement here, isn't it? So let's suppose I want to execute this statement. So my prepared statement is my prepared statement 2 from ELB logs. So this is my table name dot request IP. So if you just click on this, you will see all the columns here. So ELB logs dot request IP, comma ELB logs dot ELB response code. So I'm doing a select on these three. So on my output, I should see these three values whenever this condition is satisfied. So from ELB logs, from the table where ELB response code is 200, I have not given the 200 value, but you see the question mark here. That is where we will pass the values from the execute statement. And the backend port is also equals to, because we need the value from the execute statement. So we have kept a question mark there. So the next thing that I want to do is I want to create another statement. So just click on plus and we'll copy this execute statement. And now what I have done is I have created a statement where I'm executing the prepared statement that I've created. So my SQL statement 2. But the one thing that I forgot is I forgot to run the query. So let's come back to query number 3 and just run the query. The query is successful now. Then go ahead and to the query number 4. So the first value that we need here is ELB response code, and that I want it to be 200. And if you see here, the value for the response code that we have here is string. So I'm passing it as a string. And the value of the backend port is integer. So I'm giving it as integer 8888. So now we can just go ahead and run the query. See, we are getting the values here. So whenever the ELB response code is 200 and the backend port is 8888, I wanted the request IPs. And I'm sure you will also try this. This is very interesting, isn't it? And these are some of the quick updates that I wanted to share with you. And if you are already aware of them, then I'm sorry that I'm late. And if you are not, then please make sure that you check these updates. And if you want to watch more of my videos, then please don't forget to subscribe. I promise that I'll post videos every week. I promise, please. So that's all from my side today. Stay safe, stay healthy. Until next time, it's Pytholic signing off.